Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back to some more bite-sized business advice. And I'm excited for today's episode. We have a guest from the other side of the world, which is fantastic. We overcame the scheduling woes, and this was a fun one to put together. It took 37 emails, a lot of different calendar invites, but we are here and I'm jacked up. We're talking about a topic that is so over talked about, marketing and sales, but it's different because we're talking about the dirty word of influence, but how to do it the right way and how to not be sleazy and cringy. And I have an expert business coach and strategist, Kat Millar, with me. Kat, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. So great to be here with Brandon. Thank you for the 37 emails and getting this happening.
Half of them were from you, just for the record. But no, seriously, I'm excited to have you here. I'm glad we made this work because I love hearing not only perspectives from experts, but experts around the world. And one of the things that I found just from hosting this podcast is talking to people from other countries outside of the US. You have a wildly different view of sales and marketing. In particular, there's just a totally different way of doing business. And I really like sharing those perspectives on this show. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say. So sales, marketing, influence, 3 words that nobody wants to hear any more on, but we're going to talk about them anyway. So Kat, what is it that we're talking about? Authentic influence. How do you define that in the context of sales and marketing?
Yeah, well, first of all, authentic influence is in my definition, which I just totally made up. I didn't Google or get a dictionary definition. But first of all, let's talk about what it's not. It's not manipulating people for your own personal gain. It's not pressuring people into compliance or, trying to get them to do what you want to do. And I think that's why people get a bit cringy when it comes to the topic of influence or the topic of persuasion. And when you bring your humanity, your heart, your soul, your care into your business, authentic influence is really how you show up in every way, because we're always influencing each other, right? Like, have you ever been in a conversation where you're having such a great conversation and then someone joins and the whole mood drops? And you just think, wow, that person has changed the feeling of this group in a second. And then on the other side, you can be having a really boring conversation and then someone joins and the whole conversation lifts. And so I just think about the power we have as humans to affect each other. We're social creatures and we know this, but I think for us to be intentional in our marketing, to think, how am I helping someone see a new perspective here? Rather than ticking the box and just posting on social media and just sharing our knowledge, it's like, what belief am I trying to shift? How can I remove a barrier that someone has towards getting what they want? And so you both are on the same side towards getting that person what they want, as opposed to, I need to convince them and change their mind. Like, I've always hated that approach in marketing and sales. And I've done so much marketing and sales training where we're trying to obliterate the objection and, get that person onto our side. And I just felt so repulsed by it. So when I started in business 20 years ago and I was going to these different events and hearing this stuff, I just thought, if that's business, I don't want it. I don't want to be in business if that's what I have to do. But I've realized that actually the approach that's worked for me is building relationship and being able to really understand someone and then thinking, how do I put that back into my marketing? And it's just getting yourself back into your ideal client's mind, really.
Yeah, I love that perspective because full transparency here for you, the listener. Me and my business partner in our company, What If, we met in a group that was all about learning influence. And that's why for us, we really do consider it a dirty word, because in that context, it was about kind of faking influence and faking your authenticity, which is another whole different rabbit hole we could go down. To show up the way that the person you're talking to needed to hear you. So, I mean, obviously that didn't resonate with either of us because we now call it a dirty word. But how do you kind of get past this in marketing? Because the overall theme of the gurus out there is breaking down objections, combating their fears or agitating their fears and their pains to make them want to make a decision out of pain or avoiding fear, avoiding failure. So how do you approach this? Achieving pleasure, achieving success? What's the general approach you take in your marketing?
Well, I think the difference is it's thinking of authentic influence, because I know what you mean about that fake authenticity. Like, let's do a vulnerable post so that people can really feel your heart, and then it's almost like you can tell that it's putting on this emotion. I don't know. For me, it's just a feeling. I'm like, I feel like this person's following a formula, and it's not really moving me. So how do we balance creativity and structure, right? So we need some structure so that people will be hooked in and engaged, but also it's not just the way we show up in terms of, it's not just the way we do our brochures, like write our posts. It's about you. It's about you as a person, because if you are doing cool stuff then and talking about it, you don't need to use all these tricks and tactics. You are living an awesome life and people want to be part of that. So when you do cool things and talk about it, show up in a way, because you're working on yourself. It's not just learning this specific skill. It's like, how am I going to turn up as the person that people actually want to be, modeling as a role model? It's every touch point you have in your business. It's the way you speak to your staff, your team, the way you communicate with your clients. And I think when you truly do care, people feel it. You don't have to fake it because you just are that person. So yes, I've got formulas and things for people with their content, because a lot of people have a lot of gold in them that they're sharing, but people aren't seeing it because it hasn't really, maybe it's been entertaining, but it hasn't actually shifted a belief. So it's credibility plus connection. How do we show that we're trustworthy, we can help that person, that we have what it takes to get them a result? And then how do we add this connection piece where we're being personable and human and relatable and soulful? I know I went on a bit of a tangent, but did that kind of answer your question?
No, that's perfect. So I want to unpack that. I want to unpack how we start to shift a belief, and be transparent, be authentic, the real authentic, and help people see what can we help them achieve? What's the transformation we can help them go through? What I want to avoid, and be very specific about this, I'm speaking for me, I'm not speaking for Kat. I firmly disagree with the notion out there that says you just have to be one step ahead of your client on social media. So we are not talking to those people. The clients we serve are 7-8 figure business owners. They have teams. They've been there, done that, and they know what they're doing. I personally don't believe that social media should be a place where you rent a jet or a Lamborghini and go post a picture and then try to steal somebody's $5,000. So before we move forward, just wanted to clear the air out there. This is not one of those shows. We're talking about the real foundations of authentic marketing, authentic influence, and persuasion. And I want to now, from your perspective, how do you start in your content to shift beliefs with a real, authentic, transparent view of what you're doing?
So I look at the brain and different neuroscience when it comes to marketing, because I think really understanding how we process information, how we absorb information. I'm not a neuroscience, I'm a business coach, but I use a lot of my understanding from the psychology world. So there's lots and lots of different things out there. The one that resonated with me the most is 3 parts of the brain, because I love the rule of 3. Anything that's 3 is simple and it's easy to remember, and my clients love it as well because it's just simple. So we talk about the 3 layers of the brain. We talk about the hind brain, or reptilian brain, which is, our oldest survival part of our brain. And when we're looking through social media, when we're scanning, we're using that part of our brain because it's survival focused. So what a lot of people do is try to be really super clever and intelligent, and literally, if your brain is looking at something like that and it feels too complex or it feels too boring, it will just scan past, because it's a decision-making part of your brain and it's super fast. Like, it processes information like, yeah, nah. Like, if you've ever been on a train and watched people scrolling, I don't know if you've seen that. It's quite fascinating to think about what people stop on. Like, why did that person stop on that? I like kind of looking at this human behavior stuff. And obviously it's our filter systems. You know, we stop the scroll because of the way we're filtering for our values, our beliefs. And so, I mean, just from a very practical level, making sure that the first part of all of our marketing is simple, clear, talking to the 10-year-old child. And it's like, are you this? Yes. Are you that? Yes. Because people want to identify themselves to know if they're wasting time in that piece of content. So the first thing that I look at when I'm looking at, because I do a lot of makeovers on people's marketing, is it too boring? Is it too complicated? Because the hindbrain, or the base part of the brain will just reject it. It's got to be an easy yes. Yes, this is for me. Yes, I'm going to get value from this. This is going to be a good use of the time. The next thing we look at is the emotional part of the brain, the emotion and the imagination. So this is evoking the limbic system. And so, are we getting them to feel something, hear something, see something? So we create a scene, we drop them into a movie scene in their mind. Because once we've got past, it's like a gatekeeper. Once we've got past the instinct, we get to the imagination. So they're easy to remember: instinct, imagination, intelligence. Once we get to the imagination part, you've got through their instinct, so you've hooked their attention basically. Now we need to talk about their world and what they're experiencing in their world. So we don't need to, like, I don't like that word agitate, because people already know their problems. We can show them, yes, I get your problem, I understand it, but I'm not going to hold you there for ages in your pain. I'm going to talk about the cause of the problem and the solution to the problem, because then that person instantly feels some relief and some hope, and, oh wow, she actually really can help you with this. And then we go to the intelligence and we back it up. So we'll give evidence, we'll give some kind of statistics or our experience, or something where people go, oh right, okay, there's trust here. It's got through the gatekeeper of instinct. It's got through my imagination. I can see or hear or feel how this is going to work in my life. And now we're getting to the reason, the logic, and making sense of it. And they're just three simple things. If you just think instinct, imagination, intelligence, if you cover those three things and you work up the brainstem, because a lot of people start with intelligence. If we go up, and I use this in most interactions with people. I know that if I'm meeting someone at a networking event, and I start talking all, analytical language, that person's just still getting their bearings. They're still in that kind of survival mode. It's most of this is happening unconsciously, right? So I know it's a very simplistic explanation, but from a influence level, that is what I've found has made the biggest difference, because it's just easy to remember. It's not a big formula that you have to remember. It's just three things.
Yeah, and while you were talking though, I'm thinking it's simple. It's three things, but all of that is happening probably within like 10 to 15 seconds when someone's actually digesting that information. So the first part, the instinct, like that split second, like you said. From there, if they're still engaged, you have to cover those next two things really, really quickly and really well too. So my mind then jumped to, all right, assuming I haven't heard of the instinct one, so I want to touch on that for sure. But the emotion and the intellect, assuming your ideal client, like you understand what they want to feel after working with you, after buying your product or service, and then intellectually like the stats and data they need to hear in order to make that buying decision. How do you get inside their head for the instinct piece? That seems very almost by chance, if you will. Is there a way to actually like know your client that well?
Part of it does come, obviously with time. If you're attracting the same type of person, having conversations every day, it will almost happen organically that you'll just speak to them. I find, like we obviously do ideal client analysis and things like that, but I mean, mine kind of came naturally, like by just having lots and lots of conversations and then realizing what people's biggest problems were. So rather than trying to make up what their problems are, it was literally what people kept telling me and writing down the words that they were telling me and then feeding that back in my marketing. And I know that sounds super obvious, but I think a lot of people don't do it. They use AI, or they'll try and Google keywords instead of actually just having loads and loads of conversations with people. And so I would take coaching notes. I did hundreds of coaching sessions for free and just wrote down limiting beliefs. Like back in the day when I first started as a coach over 10 years ago, I would handwrite and then highlight with blue limiting belief. And so I would just start to see these common patterns where people, let's say, we'll take sales, for example. Sales equals sleazy, car salesman, snake oil, like all these different things people would say. So then I would take that language and put it back out into the marketing, because the instinct's on high alert. Like if it hears anything that thinks, oh, she's going to make me be like this person, this cringy person, like I'm out, that's talking to the instinct. So it comes from lots of conversations, but also it's just understanding the way that part of the brain operates. Like the instincts, there's things it hates boredom, hates complexity. So anything that's just too complex, you feel like you're not smart enough to understand it, so you jump out. If you speak to it like the child part of us, which sounds, it sounds a bit dishonoring to people's intelligence, but it's just a different part of the brain that if they have an easy yes, if they're like, I get this, I'm on board with this, so there's understanding your ideal client by just absorbing conversations, and there's understanding that part of the brain.
No, I mean, I don't think it's insulting, because I know for like email subject lines and stuff, you put them through filters to like grade it. The one I use, I think it's called sendcheckit.com, not sponsored by them, but if they want to sponsor me, just reach out. If you guys want to sponsor the show. But they grade your subject line for word usage, and they do it on like a grade level, like a elementary school grading level. So the goal, green, is like first through third grade. And it makes sense, because when you're talking about filtering through things, especially on like a super quick basis, email inbox, you probably have a little bit more time than social media. But even on social media, what you're saying is, if you're making the brain analyze too much, it's just like, no, I'm not here for this. I need to be sucked in, for lack of a better term, and engage with this, or it's not on my radar. So I think that's kind of another conversation, or another question. Email, you're there for a different purpose, versus Instagram or TikTok or whatever platform we're on. We're there for a purpose of maybe entertainment. So how do you balance your instinctual attraction to your ideal client from inbox to social media? Do you put some thought behind that and say, okay, I know my ideal client wants in their inbox, but now I have a kind of a totally unique message for social media?
Yeah, and I think if you can really just think about, okay, people are on Instagram, they want entertainment, they're in scan mode, they're in like highly stimulation mode. We're still scanning whether we're on social media or inbox, but inbox, you've got that a little bit more level of trust, because if you open someone's email, there's already trust there. You're not being so intrusive. So I think in social media, we're literally interrupting people. So we've got to bear that in mind, that it's got to be worth interrupting. So you can leverage your same message. You don't necessarily have to create a whole different piece of content, but just the way we do it can be slightly different. So shorter words, short sentences, things that are easily absorbable, adding some emojis, bringing it to life a little bit more on social media, because we're still more in the instinct part on social media. So in the inbox, that person already knows you, so there's already some assumed trust. You don't have to build it as much usually, and it usually means that someone already thinks that your email is going to be valuable in order to open it. And then we don't need to, then it's genuinely like, this person wants to read what I'm saying, as opposed to I've got to use all these tactics to, clickbaity stuff.
I'm a huge fan of clickbait, especially in the titles of these episodes, because we do want people to watch them. But the whole like social media, I really can't stand it. I just got to be honest with you. I think it's very valuable, but the whole thing is just like so out there for me. What I would love if there was like a checklist to go through in order to help me figure out what I was doing wrong with my social media. What's this on the screen, Kat? This is very interesting timing. So this conversation has been phenomenal, but I want to hear about your client attraction checklist, because the world of social media is too complex for simple people like me, which you would think I would thrive because I'm such a simple creature, but really it's complex for me. So tell me what is your client attraction checklist, and who should go download it?
So I created the checklist for anyone that's kind of going, where do I start when it comes to attracting clients? So it starts right from the beginning. If you just need more clients and you want to follow a step-by-step, it's got tick boxes, and it's just basically saying, do this today, because we can get so overwhelmed, right? So just having just go do this, get the blinkers on, focus on that. It's for service providers predominantly, people that are wanting to attract clients into their service business, like coaches, consultants, course creators. Go check it out. I think you'll get a lot of value from it.
Well, I'm going to have to, because I just admitted that I hate social media. But I think the real question is, and this is where a lot of people get hung up, myself included. On average, how much time do you spend creating content on social media each day? Like, I understand the checklist is going to walk us through, but the things that we should be doing. But I've heard everything from 10 seconds to 3 hours, and that's just too big of a range for me. So in your words, what's an average amount of time to spend on social media?
So it comes down to what you're doing, and if you're doing video versus writing, sometimes writing can take a lot longer. People are less forgiving with mistakes in writing, so that's why I like doing a lot of video, because it's quick. So I personally just do one video a week, which is about 20-25 minutes, and then I splice it up and I turn that into shorter videos. So I just concentrate on this one big piece of content a week, and then I'll take that and I'll make social media posts from it. My VA will turn that into an email, a blog. It'll go up on my YouTube channel. So I'm a big fan of leveraging it rather than trying to think of something every single day. It's like one big topic, and I put all of my energy into that just once a week, and then that all gets split up. So that's how I personally do it. I'm so busy working with my clients that I don't have 3 hours a day to fill my life, but I don't want to be a social media influencer. I'm working with clients and just getting them to I guess create in a way that's going to be doable for their lifestyle. It's better to do 1 or 2 quality pieces of content than posting 3 times a day just to tick the box. No point in that.
Yeah, I love that advice. And if I may share with you, the listener, I hate social media. Like I said, I can't make that more clear. I'm just going to say that word for word. But I knew I needed to be on it, because how am I going to connect with people if not on social media? So I said to myself, what can I do that adds value, not only to me, but to my ideal client? And who else could we add value to? So I said, let's create a podcast. Let's create a video podcast where we can do not an episode a week, but an episode a day. And we can splice that up into a bunch of smaller pieces of content. It serves the guest, it serves my ideal client, and maybe eventually it serves me too. We don't monetize the podcast, but we have gotten clients reach out to us watching the episodes. Our guests have gotten clients to reach out to them. It serves all parties. And I think it's the biggest hack in terms of social media marketing. So for me, like you said, it was leveraging what works for my lifestyle in my time that I can continue to do consistently. So Kat, I appreciate you coming here and making this topic of influencing people with authenticity and attracting people into your business. You've simplified it for me, for sure, and definitely for the audience as well. So I can't thank you enough for coming here and sharing your expertise.
Thanks, Brandon. I appreciate it. Loved our conversation.
Same here. And if you want to check out more of Kat and the client attraction checklist that we talked about, it is on the screen if you're watching. If you're listening, wherever you are, watching or listening, it's down in the description down below, along with all of her social media links. So you can go check out what she's putting out on social media, how she's attracting clients, and learn more from that client attraction checklist too. So wherever you are, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a second of this totally ridiculous show, where hopefully we provide you some sort of value, or at the very least, 20 minutes of entertainment every single day of the week. We'll see you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Thanks for being here.